All right, welcome back. We've been a week off, but we're super excited to be talking about the March Madness. March Madness is upon us. NBA is a little harder to do live because we have to create the video and post it out there, and probably by the time we do it, those games are over at night. So we'll see what we can do to project better games in the future. But March Madness is cool. We're in Vegas right now, Christina's hometown. One thing we're not seeing is her Ohio State hat, so I do appreciate the fact she's not displaying those colors right now. You kind of have the colors on, however, you don't have the hat on. So what we want to talk about today is we're going to break the bracket down. Christina's going to talk about the South and the West region. I'm going to focus on the East and the Midwest, and then we're going to figure out who has what in their Final Four and who's got the championship. So what have you been up to?
What have I been up to?
What are your picks? What are you thinking?
So am I starting off on the South? Okay.
Yeah, go for it. Like, I know you've been doing some studying on this.
A little bit, you know. So first one, everyone, Auburn versus Alabama State. Not Alabama, not confused, Alabama. So I'm going to go Auburn because apparently
number one seed.
They're the number one seed, and with these seeds, I don't usually pick a lot of Cinderella teams. They usually don't make it past the 8.
Yeah, they barely make it out of the first round, at least the 16 seeds.
And I do have one, number 11, North Carolina being Ole Miss, only because it's North Carolina. So that would be the one team that I figured should go on to that, at least to the second round. Michigan versus San Diego. I'm going to have Michigan winning. Michigan came out and won the Big Ten tournament. They were last in the Big Ten, then ended up winning the tournament to earn their spot. So they're playing really, really well right now. Texas A&M and Yale. I'm going to go with number 4, Texas A&M. Iowa State and Lipscomb. I'm going to go with Iowa State. I am picking more favorites than I am anything else right now.
Yeah, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going with Yale, just to spice it up a little. I'm going to take Yale over A&M. I am, but that's it. I won't talk about any other ones as you roll through them, but if I see some that I think is an upset on your side of the bracket, I'm going to throw it out there.
All right, so then number 7, Marquette, New Mexico. I'm going with Marquette. And then Michigan State and Bryant, I'm going Michigan State.
All right, that covers the South, at least the first round. Yeah. So hit me on the first round in the West.
Okay. That would be number 1, Florida, taking on Norfolk State. I'm going with Florida. Florida is really the team that no one really wants to see or play right now. So we're going to do that. UConn, Oklahoma, 8 or 9. These are always the tougher ones.
Yep.
We'll just go with UConn because it's UConn.
I think that's a good bet because they're the defending champions.
Yes. So. And then again,
your favorite.
Early. If you're a UNLV fan from back in the day, you'll understand why. We're still not over it. So Memphis and Colorado State, going Memphis, number 5.
I'm loading Colorado State on that game, so I'm challenging you on that one. Colorado State, I think, is going to roll over Memphis, but go ahead. Just want to throw my differences.
Neon's not here, right?
I know. Colorado State, though, but they're rolling in their end of year. I just think they're going to beat Memphis.
All right, and then number 4, Maryland and GC. I'm going Maryland. Missouri and Drake. I'm going Missouri just because I don't like the name Drake, and he's lost that. He lost the hip hop battle against what Kendrick Lamar. I saw that. I was like, oh, they can't win. Sorry.
He's tainted them by a name.
Watch them win now. Number 3, Texas Tech against. What is that?
UNCW. Yeah, University of North Carolina, Wilmington.
And then 7, Kansas, 10, Arkansas. Going with Kansas because it's Kansas. St. John's in Omaha. We're going to St. John's because of Rick Pitino.
Yeah, I like that.
The best coach in college basketball right now.
Well, yeah, they're on fire. He's definitely going to take them away. Kansas, Arkansas will be an interesting game. Kansas it's not that one of their better teams, clearly, because they're a 7 seed versus used to being a 1 or a 2 seed. You know, Calipari is an interesting coach for Arkansas. So we'll see. I like his coach, but I also like Kansas coach as well, Bill Self. So it's going to be a good game.
All right. You want me to do the second round?
Yeah, go for the second round.
Second round.
Back to the South.
Going to try and go through this really quick because there's a lot of games. Auburn and Creighton. This one, everyone says Creighton is tough, but I'm still going to pick Auburn. Michigan and Texas A&M. I'm actually going to say Texas A&M upsets Michigan.
Okay.
Even though they're higher seeded, I still think Michigan probably be favored in that game.
Yep.
North Carolina and Iowa State. I'm going to roll with North Carolina. The Tar Heels.
All right.
Marquette, Michigan State. I'm going Michigan State. And then Florida, UConn, going Florida. We're in the West now. And then Memphis, Maryland, going Maryland. Missouri, Texas Tech, going Texas Tech. Kansas and St. John's. Gonna stick with Patino and go with St. John's.
All right, I like that. I'm good. We're on the same page there. I got St. John's, Texas Tech, Maryland, Florida, Michigan State, Iowa State.
All right.
Michigan,
cool.
Auburn. So.
All right. So Sweet 16, Auburn, Texas A&M. I got Auburn advancing to the Elite Eight. North Carolina, Michigan State. I got Michigan State going to the Elite Eight. Florida and Maryland. I have Florida.
Okay.
Texas Tech and St. John's. I got St. John's.
All right. Well, we got a little difference there. I got Maryland beating Florida. I don't think that's going to happen, but I got to throw a wild one out there. And then I got Texas Tech beating St. John's. So, all right. So getting down to Final Four. So 2 on your side of the bracket.
So Elite Eight. All right.
Yep.
So that game, Auburn, Michigan State. I got Michigan State.
Okay.
Florida and St. John's. I got Florida.
All right. I got Auburn and Texas Tech on that side of the bracket getting to the end. So I'm going to hit mine real quick. I'm going to hit the East and the Midwest. Then we're going to circle back because Christina's going to tell me who she's got in her Final Four on the East and the Midwest side of the bracket. And feel free to chime in if you disagree with any of my picks as well. Obviously, the 1 seeds on both Houston and Duke, I don't think there's any conversation needed there. They're going to blow some teams out. I think
otherwise everyone's bracket is busted.
Exactly. We just don't see 1 seeds
Except
lose.
for that team.
We just don't see one seeds lose, so I'm not really going to roll the dice on that. Then I've got up on the East, I think Baylor is going to take Mississippi State. Mississippi State's lost like 7 of their last 11. They're coming in not super strong in the tournament, so I don't trust Baylor either because they lost one of their big guys, was hurt. But I'm going to roll the dice with an upset there, Baylor over Mississippi State. Oregon, Liberty, I think that game's going to be closer than people think, even though it's a 5-12. We see a lot of times where the 12 seed actually upsets the 5 seed. We've seen that every year. I don't know what the stats are on it, but at least one, usually a 12 beats a 5. Sometimes it's 2. I think Liberty could be that team, but I'm not going to take that. I'm going with Oregon.
Same.
Arizona and Akron. I think Arizona is going to steamroll Akron. I got actually wagers on that one, so we're going to watch that one. BYU and VCU. A lot of people are actually picking VCU to upset BYU. BYU is going to live and die by their 3 points, so really if they're not shooting great at 3-point, it's possible, but if they're knocking them out lights out, BYU rolls. Wisconsin, Montana, I don't think there's much to talk about there. Wisconsin, I think, is going to take care of Montana. The Mary Cal and Vanderbilt, that's at St. Mary's School. Actually, I have Vanderbilt on this sheet, but I'm going to make that change because after doing some more research, I think St. Mary's is going to actually upset Vanderbilt. Even though Vanderbilt's an SEC team and they did really good in the tournament last year, I'm still going with St. Mary's on that. Alabama rolls Roberts. Houston, we talked about. Gonzaga, that's a great matchup. It's an 8-9. Gonzaga, Georgia. I think Gonzaga hasn't played as great this year. They're like Kansas, right? We're used to seeing Gonzaga being a 1, 2, or 3 seed. They're an 8 seed this year. They haven't been playing as good. But I'm going to roll with, I got Georgia on here, so I'm going to stick with Georgia.
You know what? I thought you were going to say I'm going to roll with Gonzaga.
I was going to, and that's
I got Georgia.
That's what's in my mind, but I'm going to pull Georgia on that one. Clemson and McNeese, I think Clemson rolls. Actually, here's the fun one. I'm taking High Point to beat Purdue. High Point to beat Purdue. That's my biggest upset on the bracket. Wow. High Point to beat Purdue. I don't know why. I don't like Purdue. Purdue barely beats teams. They rarely cover the spread. I'm going with High Point, and we'll see what happens. Worst case is I don't really have Purdue going very far in any of my brackets, even if they make it a round or two, so it won't hurt me too bad. I got Illinois actually getting upset by Xavier or Texas, depends on who wins tonight. I might change that, but right now that's what I have is Xavier. I don't think Illinois they're a good team, but I think they're capable of getting upset. I got Kentucky hammering Troy.
Let's hope that they don't have a repeat of last year.
Exactly.
I have Kentucky as well.
It's a matter of how far you got them down the path. I got Utah State upsetting UCLA. That's a fun one. And then I have Tennessee just hammering Wofford. All right, anything you disagree with?
Well, I have 0 underdogs in this one.
All right.
I went with the favorites on all of them. So there's a couple we disagree with, the Purdue and High Point.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
And then also, who did you say?
I had Xavier, Texas over Illinois.
I have Illinois on.
And then I had Utah State, UCLA was my
I took
other.
UCLA.
Okay.
They're a basketball school.
They are. But I think we'll see what happens there. All right, moving into the Sweet 16, taking us into Sweet 16 based on these wins. Of course, I got Duke beating Baylor. I got Oregon beating Arizona. This is a little bit of my upset bracket. I may make a change there, but right now I'm going with Oregon over Arizona.
I do have Arizona.
Okay, I think they'll roll
Another
too.
basketball.
But it's a 4 and a 5 seed, so they'll be pretty tightly knit. Not a big fan of Oregon, but I've also seen Arizona lay eggs on occasion here and there on the tournament. I actually have BYU upsetting Wisconsin. So if they get by VCU, I think they possibly get by the 3 seed Wisconsin. I have Vanderbilt taking out. Actually, I have Vanderbilt taking out Alabama. It's a crazy bracket for me, and here's why.
Yeah.
The Nelson guy for Alabama hurt himself, and that last game when they played Tennessee last week, they were a completely different team in the second half without that Nelson guy. And I think he might be injured to the point of a knee injury. I know he was supposed to go to a doctor on Monday. I never heard what the results of that were. But if that Nelson doesn't play, I'm not sure how far Alabama gets, even though they're a 2 seed. So watch that injury. I got Houston beating Georgia, of course. I got Clemson beating High Point, of course, assuming High Point wins. I got Kentucky hammering Texas or Xavier based on whoever wins that. So obviously all of my upsets to get to the next round, I got them all getting demolished in the next round. I got Tennessee hammering Utah State. Then getting us to the 8, I've got Tennessee beating Kentucky. I got Clemson, actually, this is my upset bracket, I think is what I'm learning here. I got Clemson taking out Houston.
Oh.
And then I got BYU beating Vanderbilt. And then I got Duke advancing over Oregon. Final 4 on my one side of the bracket. Duke takes out BYU. Tennessee takes out Clemson. So I got Duke and Tennessee on my 2 on the right side of the bracket.
Okay, so I have.
What do you got over there?
I got Duke and Houston.
Okay.
So we agree on 1.
Yep.
And then I have Michigan and Florida, like you said on that. And who do you have on the other one?
On my other side, I got Auburn and Texas Tech, which you had Michigan State
and Florida.
So I got some upsets over here.
This is completely different.
Kind of my upset bracket, so we'll see. We'll see. I think, who do you have in the final 2?
I have in the championship game Michigan State, Tom Izzo against Duke.
Okay, like it. Actually, one of my brackets, I got that, but I chose the more underdogish bracket here today. I got Auburn versus Tennessee, and I got the Vols winning it all.
I got Duke.
Okay.
Going with a traditional power. And as much as I don't like Duke, because I'm from and you will know if you were around in the late 80s and early 90s why we are still upset about the whole Duke thing.
Well, I think we're just kind of friendly competing against each other, so we're just not going to go by spread here. That's a whole nother lecture if we do spreads, but for this, we're just going to go with, if it's cool with you, winners, losers. I'm not going to count points for first round, this round, and advancing. We're truly just going to go.
Who has the most in the final 4?
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll count up how many wins over here. Yeah. Then we have to go back to where we were in the 8 and the 16. All right, well, that's our episode. So we'll probably honestly come back next week because we'll be through the first 2 rounds.
See how our brackets fared out.
We'll see if Christina lays like she did last year, where she was like, I hate this shit because my bracket's already dead after 2 days.
I had Kentucky winning, or actually not winning. Yes, winning.
Yeah.
And winning the championship, and they went out First round. I was like, well, I won't be winning anything.
So I think it's gonna be fun. We're gonna watch each other's brackets. We're going to, go through. Obviously, the first 2 rounds happen over the next 3 days, 4 days. We're gonna shoot another episode probably Tuesday, Wednesday next week, and then the next round we'll have already gotten ready to kick off.
There we go.
The Sweet 16.
All right.
All right.
We'll talk to you guys next week.
Deuces.